Got a Chevy Cavalier here, and it's the last job of the day. As you can see, it's dark outside already. It's here for rear drum brakes because they said they could hear a grinding coming from the back, and boy was it hard to get this drum off. I mean, a lot of torching and a lot of air hammering. It's a good thing they got new drums because air hammer really did a number on that thing, and I would not want to put it back on the car. But actually the shoes look fine, and the grinding noise that they were hearing was actually the broken spring. See it right here in two pieces. So I believe we do have a new spring. So I think what I'm going to do is we're going to replace the spring, obviously, and use the new drum that they brought, because this one is shot to hell with the air hammer. Oh, it was on there bad. It was a good 20-30 minutes just to get this one drum off. I really need to invest in one of those I don't know if it's Astro or OTC that makes like the drum or rotor puller. I need to get one of those. PT Cruiser. Jesus Christ. Alright, so we got some heavy duty work going on today. We got a Chevy 1500, and I got a lot of work to do on this one, but I'm starting with these two ball joints on the front right side. As you can see, here goes the upper ball joint, and I still have to remove the lower. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the inner and outer tie rod, and I think that's all I'm gonna do for tonight. It's late and I'm tired. Alright, so I pretty much got it set up here. And yes, I'm doing it manually because it's late. It's about 9:30 p.m. and I'm trying to minimize the amount of noise I make here. But so far so good. It looks like it's moving. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, you got the tie rods on. Everything's tightened down and ready to go. So I just finished cleaning up the rotor. Put all the clips back where they belong. This one needs zip ties because that's how it came in, with two zip ties holding it in, so I got to put that back on. But besides that, it's all done. I could go ahead and put the wheel back on it. It's now the next day, and you can probably tell I'm getting the work done on this truck little by little. So on the left side of the truck, as you can see, I put on the new inner and outer tie rods. Here was the old one right here. I wish I knew this when I was on the other side, but I didn't. Well, at least I didn't know I had a wrench big enough to fit the inner tie rod. So here I am just using the largest set of pliers to remove them, right? It turns out my fan clutch kit has one of these large wrenches in it. It's a 36mm and it fits perfectly. Boom. So without this, I would not have been able to get it done, because the other side I was able to get it off with my large pliers, this one, but this side was just on here so tight that it needed a good grip, something like that giant wrench right there. So now I know. After doing the ball joints and the tie rods, I decided to take care of the spark plugs. So as you can see, I've already pulled the 4 spark plugs out of this side, and everything came out pretty easy. Nothing put up a fight. Now we are not replacing the wires, because when I gave the owner a quote on what parts would cost, you know, I told him X amount, and he shows up to drop off the money and only gives me a certain amount. So alright, you didn't give me the full amount that I asked for to cover all the parts. Well, had to budget somewhere, right? So I had to get the or take the spark plug wires out of the equation to fall within the budget of the amount of money that he gave me. So it's getting spark plugs but no wires. This is just maintenance. There's no, well, at least not that I know of, there's no misfires or anything like that. It's just yep, just getting some maintenance done. And I'm gonna go ahead and knock this side out, and hopefully the other side goes just as easy. Alright, it's the next day. It's in the morning. I just finished the spark plugs on the driver's side. Everything went pretty smooth. So now I'm just gonna go ahead, turn the truck around and back it into the garage so I could get the rear pads and rotors done. And that'll be the last thing I have to do on this truck. Just can't wait to get this out of here. Tired of looking at it. One thing I noticed after changing the spark plugs, it seems to have a little more power, like it's more responsive, and the engine just idles way smoother. You know, before it just kind of felt like you were in a diesel or something, you know, like always shaking. But it's nice and smooth now, so spark plugs made a difference. Let's go ahead and take these wheels off and see what kind of nightmare awaits us. So far so good, everything's coming off pretty easy. Here's the back side of the rotor. And you can see this right here, the parking brake, or whatever you're gonna call it. It's seen better days. I'm gonna call the owner about this, but I'm pretty sure it's just gonna say, rip it out, doesn't need it. Took the bracket off and sandblasted where the pads are gonna ride, so the metal is nice and clean, free of rust. I'm gonna show you how the brake pads should go on if everything is how it should be, meaning no more rust. So if you ever see anyone having to grind down your brake pads to make them fit, or even worse, using tools to get your brake pads on, for instance like a hammer, something is not right, okay? So let's see how easy this goes on when everything is correct. Just like that. And if I wanted to, see, I could move this back and forth freely. That's how the pads should be able to move inside of the caliper bracket. So if you see someone using a hammer to get your brake pads on, something's not right. Alright guys, so that's about it. I knocked out the other side already. It's been here for 3 days because I've been taking my sweet time. Customer's in no rush. Just gonna go ahead, pop the wheels on, torque all the wheels down, and take it out for a test drive. Alright, so the brakes feel great. Everything is nice and quiet. So now it has new brakes all the way around because I didn't do the front brakes, but someone had recently put front pads and rotors on it, and it looked like they did a decent job. So it's got new brakes all the way around. The front end feels nice and tight now with the new tie rods and the ball joints. And the steering wheel is actually pretty straight, and it goes pretty straight down the road, so it's a good thing. It's not too bad. And like I mentioned earlier, with the spark plugs, the engine seems to be happier. So that's it for this old truck. In a Pontiac G8, it got dropped off because they're having some weird tire wear on the back of the car. Someone did hit the rear right wheel, and that's where he said he's experiencing most of his tire wear. So it looks like, I'm not 100% sure, but based off of the way it was hit, it looks like something may be bent back there, causing the alignment to be off. So I get in the car, like I'm gonna take it for a test drive, and it's another Pontiac with no power steering. This thing is rock hard to turn, so that's gonna suck taking it out for a test drive. And he said also, since around the time of the accident, you could see the ABS light has been on. And right there on the dash it says ABS fault. So just gonna go ahead and pull codes for it and see what it is. And if we could focus here, we could see that the wheel that got hit is the wheel that is not reporting a speed sensor. Speed. Thingamajiggle. Speed. You get what I'm trying to say. Hold on. This thing's got no power steering. Oh, that sucks. The reason why I wanted to take it out for a test drive is because it was hit so hard back there that I was suspecting maybe a bad wheel bearing also. And I think I do hear something coming from back there. There was a little bit of play. It was very, very minor, but I figured I need to take it out for a test drive to see if there is something wrong with the wheel bearing. Try to open the hood on this Pontiac, and the lever felt like nothing was attached to it. So of course I come out here, and like always, boom. As you can see, I got everything taken apart, and I think I found a reason of what was causing the tire wear to be so severe. The bolt that goes through this arm right here is actually bent. I don't know if you can see that, but as you're unthreading it, it goes right into this spot on the knuckle, and as you're unthreading it out of the knuckle, it just wobbles around because it's actually bent. So you can see, depending on which way it stops, it's going to change this angle, essentially acting like a camber bolt, because it's, pushing one way or another depending on where it stops. So we need a new bolt for this, but we're in here. We're still going to change the arms that we came in to change because it could always benefit from it. Looking at the back of the wheel bearing, you could see a piece missing right here. Now this doesn't explain 100% why we're missing, because it wasn't like we had dropouts in our speed sensor. We had absolutely nothing, zero, okay? So yeah, it's gonna benefit from a wheel bearing, not only for this problem right here, but let's spin the wheel bearing and listen to this. Yep, it sounds pretty bad. So I made the right call on changing the wheel bearing while I'm in here. And like I said, we're gonna change the sensor. It's right here. Hopefully it comes out without too much trouble. And we're just gonna keep on trucking forward. But yeah, the biggest concern right now is, well, I got two concerns at the moment. Number one is getting this bolt. Number two is I can't seem to get that bolt out. As you can see, it's not even budging. I was heating it up and it's still, I can't get the nut off. And here's another reason why I bought the sensor, is because a lot of times they get destroyed when you're trying to remove them because they're just seized inside of there. Thankfully this one came out without too much fight, but I did have to go at it with a hammer from the bottom side a little bit, but it came out without breaking. But first thing I noticed is this may be hard to pick up, but on that right, actually right there, now on the right side pin, there's actually some green crusties. Alright, so on the connector it looks good, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean this out. And now I'm really happy that I bought a new sensor, not only because of fear of it getting destroyed like they normally do, but now that I see green crusties in it, this is a good sign. Okay, so this tells me that potentially by replacing the sensor and the wheel bearing, we may get our wheel speed sensor functioning again and get that ABS light to turn off. Alright, so the new wheel bearing is installed, nice and smooth now. Still got to put the new sensor in. Alright, so everything is going back together. As you can see, make sure to get that parking brake shoe installed. The new wheel bearing is in. We got the new arm on this side, you can see it right here, and we have the new ABS or speed sensor right there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to replace this arm, even though I have a new one here, because the nut back there, if you guys could see it right there, that nut, I got it loose, right? So it's not even holding down anymore, but the bolt itself is completely seized inside of that bushing, and I've got way too much time invested and I can't even get it to budge. So I'm gonna have to throw in the towel. If he really wants that arm change, you could just take it to a shop and let them fight with it. I'm not gonna deal with this. Like I said, too much time invested and I've gotten nowhere with it. So yeah, anyways, I think the real issue that was causing the alignment problem was this bent bolt. Now we don't have a replacement bolt at the moment, so what I did is I just had to heat up the bolt until it was red hot and then just kind of bang it into shape. I know you shouldn't be doing this to suspension bolts and things like this, but it's just for the time being so we could put it back together. And it's way better than it was before, but obviously it's nowhere near perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and put this bolt back on, but we're definitely gonna go to the dealer and or even order it online from the dealer website and get a brand new bolt so we could put on this and fix that alignment issue. And just to show you guys how far off this bolt is, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it, and we're gonna see this whole assembly move, which is essentially changing like the toe of the rear wheel. So watch this as I move the bolt. See how the whole knuckle is moving? And this is, like I said, this is with me trying to bang it into shape and make it straight more or less. So all this movement that we have in the knuckle as I tighten in this bolt, that's an improvement. It was way worse when I removed it. This thing was just going back and forth every turn of the bolt. So yeah, just one more time, let's go ahead and back it off and you can see everything move. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Alright, so I just took this Pontiac out for a test drive. I cleared the speed sensor codes, or the ABS codes, and you can see left front and left rear are doing the same exact thing. I'm about to lose my data. And the right front and the right rear are also doing the same thing. Now before we had just like no information at all. The other three were giving a signal and we had absolutely nothing on this wheel. We saw that the magnetic pickup on the wheel bearing was damaged, but that would have caused us to have a signal. We would just have dropouts. So the fact that we had no data at all tells me that the sensor itself was bad, and we did see corrosion on the connector, which I did clean up. So everything seems to be working. All of the ABS sensors are agreeing at this moment. So that's good. I'm tired. It's late. I got my ass kicked all day, and it's super hot and humid out here. I'm done for today. So lately I've been getting in the habit of checking the parts before I take the cars apart, right? Except for this one time. So I started taking the car apart. As you can see, it's taken apart, and we got the wrong parts. The pads are wrong, the rotors are wrong. So it's about 2 hours later, and we have what it looks like some rear brake pads. See how tiny they are, and these look like rear rotors. You see how it's just like a solid piece of metal. So hopefully they should fit, but there is still room for error. In this Hyundai Sonata, I did the brake last night, and I was able to take it out this morning for a test drive, and it was not good. I could smell burning coming from the rear end of the car, and I saw smoke coming out the rear left wheel. So the wheel's off the ground now, but that's very difficult to spin. Both of the pistons on the calipers were extremely difficult to push in. With the caliper just like this hanging out in the open, I went inside the car and pushed the brake pedal to get the piston to come out, and it did. But once I go to try to push it in, and here I'm using my giant pliers here because I can't seem to fit any of my other tools in here. But you know, you put the old brake pad right here and use the giant pliers to press it in, and it does not want to move. So the next step I had to do was remove the bleed, or the bleeder, and it's what I did. You can see the floor is wet, so I completely took it off, like 100% took it off. And then I tried to push in the piston, and it did not make a difference. Alright, so we have the new caliper installed. I already bled it, checked the brake pedal, everything feels good. There's absolutely no leaks over here. So even after pushing a brake plenty of times, you see we come back to the rotor and it still spins. It's not locking up. If we come over to the old caliper, see if I can get this for you guys to focus. So you can see the piston, it's not out completely, but it's out a little bit. I'm just going to use these large pliers to try to push it back in. And I'm squeezing pretty tight right now. And you can see it's not even moving. I know it's not all the way in, I'll tell you that much. It's supposed to bottom almost all the way out against the caliper, but it just won't move. Yeah, and you know, owner was like, well, I didn't have that problem before we did the brakes. Well, the thing is, your brake pads were seized in place. They were so rusted they would not move at all. So it didn't really matter. Essentially, this caliper wasn't doing anything to stop the car, because it didn't matter how much pressure there was on the piston of the caliper. Since the brake pads were seized, they weren't moving, meaning they weren't doing anything to stop the car. But that's it, everything works. Here we have a Kia Sportage and another day in paradise. I picked up these off of Amazon after watching Tool Teardown's review on them. Not really a review, he was more of comparing them to two other jack stands, and to me this seemed like the better of the three. So I went ahead on Amazon and picked them up. Safety first, huh? We're back in this 2000 Accord. It's the one I just put a starter in maybe like 2 weeks ago. But ever since I put the starter in, the car is still making weird noises whenever you start it. And it sounds like a starter that's hanging up. So I told the owner, hey, if it doesn't go away, just let me know and we'll warranty it through AutoZone and I'll replace it for free. So that sucks. Let's see if I could get it to make the noise. Alright, so I'm sure you guys heard that. And then another issue is she's having random no crank. And she said it'll only start when someone gives her a jump. So she got so frustrated with it that she... door's locked. But anyway, you can see down there. You know, let's just see if we can unlock this door. so she brought me the new starter from AutoZone. It looks like, yeah, a Duralast starter. She said she wants to just throw a new battery in it, and she even went out and bought a jump starter because the car kept leaving her stranded, and it would only start if it got a jump start. So of course, I tried cranking it over multiple times, and it always starts. Of course, it doesn't act up while it's here, right? But definitely the starter is making noise, so we're just gonna go ahead and change that starter once again. And the battery right here actually says 2017, so it's got some years on it, and the connections here don't look too great. I mean, you could just tell there's corrosion. And the last time it was here, I actually tried to remove them so I could clean the post. So I got the negative side off, and as you can see, I haven't put a newer nut on it. But the positive side, it doesn't want to come off, and I haven't tried it yet, but I know I couldn't get it off last time. So I don't know what's gonna happen here. Hopefully to come off this time, but I'm gonna assume there's a lot of corrosion between the post and the wire itself, or the post connector, if you want to call it that. So I just checked the alternator, and it is charging while the car is running, obviously. She recently had a aftermarket radio put in, as you can see right there. So I checked that and make sure that it does turn off when the key is out, you know, meaning someone didn't wire it up wrong. So the radio does turn off when the key comes out. So it took me a good 15 minutes, but I finally got this terminal off. You can see I got the Dremel out. I got standard sockets instead of metric. I got a hammer. It took all kinds of tools to get it off, but it's off. So I'm going to make sure to go ahead and change this bolt and nut while I have it apart, so we don't have to go through that trouble again. Now, I'm not really testing the battery. Normally I would, you know, to see if it's bad or anything like that, but in my opinion, it's a waste of time at this point, because we have a brand new battery here. This one's a 2017, so in my opinion, it's past due. Okay, it's old. Let's go ahead and change it. And after talking to the owner, she really doesn't care the condition of this battery. She's just so frustrated with this. She wants a new battery in it, and that's it. So me wasting time to figure out, oh yeah, no, the battery's fine, or it's no good, it's a waste of time. Okay, just slap the new one in because it's what the customer wants, and let's move on. We're gonna leave it out for now until we change the starter. All right, so I got the old starter out, and I mean, they look exactly the same. Everything seems to be the same. I'll tell you one thing, it was way easier to get this starter out the second time with removing the battery. And by the way, I'm not charging the owner anything to do this, since I just did the starter, and she's having these problems, you know, with the noise after starting it, and then turned into a no crank, which it's at that point it's not related to the starter. But the fact that the starter was making noise, I told her, hey, get a new starter, I'll change it for free, and we'll go from there. Everything is pretty much in, and I did manage to get the old damaged nut off, and I put a new one on, and it threads on nicely. Everything's tightened up. I tried to clean the connector as best as I can, or the terminal, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Same thing for the ground side. Now, looking down here at the ground going to the transmission, see it right there, all that green stuff? So that's not good. You know, the engine needs a good ground. So by fixing these problems that we have here, it's gonna help me the next time I have to take this stuff off, because I'm pretty sure we're gonna end up replacing this ground strap. But you know what, the air box, that piece doesn't need to be in place to start the engine, so I'm gonna go ahead and start it, and let's see if that starter noise is gone. Alright, so for startup, make sure I'm using the right key, because there's two different keys. Alright, let's listen. Am I using the wrong key? No, I thought I had the right key. What the heck's going on? Did I not? Oh! I did not plug in the S terminal wire going to the starter, so the starter's not going to get a signal to crank. Alright, let me plug that back in. Alright, so second try. Alright, let's go ahead and listen. Sounded a lot better to me. Let's try it again. Sounds way better. I'm gonna go ahead and just try it a few more times off camera, but so far I'm really happy. There's another high mileage car. See that right there, almost 250,000. It's on its second engine. But this sucks. I know she just had this radio installed not too long ago, maybe, I don't know, a few months ago, a couple of months ago. But it's on right now, and you can see there's absolutely nothing on the screen. The volume seems to work. That's about it. And when you push in on the touchscreen, look at it. Look at the corner. See that? Yeah, I don't know how much this radio costs, but you can tell it's not a good quality radio, and that really sucks, you know, to pay someone to install it. I don't know who installed it, but just real kick to the balls, right? I have a Trailblazer. It just hit over 200,000 miles just like yesterday, so you can see that right now. There you go, just right over 200. All right, so it got dropped off because it has intermittent stalling. So when he initially brought the truck over like 2 days ago, he's got cam and crank correlation codes, so that's not good. And I think it was a cam sensor circuit problem or something like that. I can't remember. I'm about to pull up the codes right now, but I'm waiting for the scanner to boot up. But right now, very quickly, I did a relative compression test just to knock it out, just so I could look at things, because I know how these engines are. And looks okay. It sounded good while cranking, and the relative compression just confirms that. Everything looks decent here. Of course, this is not what I'm here for, but it was quick and easy, and if I could give the owner more information, the better. Alright, so here's the codes that we have. We have oxygen sensor voltage or circuit high on sensor 1. Not worried about that right now. We have a fuel trim system rich, and here's what I was talking about. We have a camshaft position sensor circuit code, and then we have a engine coolant temp code, and the last one says crankshaft position correlation. So these are the two biggest issues right here: the crankshaft correlation and the sensor circuit code for the camshaft. So I mean, it wants the camshaft wants to be at 0, and for the most part it's staying pretty close to 0. And by the way, I did check the oil. The oil is completely topped off, and he recently had an oil change done, so the oil actually looked good when I checked it about 2 days ago. So even though we have these codes and the customer explained to me what's going on while he's driving, I have not experienced it myself. The car has not stalled on me or anything like that. If I had to choose the crank or the camshaft to start looking into it, I'd say we start with the camshaft, since we have a circuit code. Alright, so the crank sensor is actually right here, right on top. Super easy to get to. And see if we can look at this. See the waveform here, and I'm just going to go ahead and tap on the actual sensor with this. Look at that. And all I'm doing is giving it some light taps. Alright, so I got the new part. I've already installed it. Got everything connected to check the new sensor. And as soon as I put my pin in to back probe it, got a signal instantly. There was no messing around with it. Not like the old one where I wasn't really sure if it was making a good connection, and I was making a good connection. It was just a bad sensor. And you saw that, you know, whenever I would tap on the sensor, it would come alive and then die again. But this one, everything's working. And another thing I noticed is, look at the amplitude. It's actually going up to 12 volts. You see that? The old one, at times it would be like 6 volts or even less. Sometimes I saw it as low as it was like a peak of 2 volts square wave. And now it's consistently running, and it's at 12 volts, and it's not dropping out. So that's the fix, guys. Really happy to see this and able to confirm everything and see that it's working. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at some other problems on the truck. As you saw, we had a oxygen sensor code and a rich condition. So I'm gonna see what that's about.